Hello, good evening, how you diddling? This is Past Force, unhinged, unscripted, and of course, uncut. I've had a very interesting week, fascinating week. I've been away. I planned to do it as a little bit of a holiday, and I definitely had a holiday. I definitely needed a holiday. But it was a bit of what you might call a busman's holiday. Because whilst I was away, I filmed a very special Past Force episode, which will be going out in June. In fact, I know the exact date it will be going out. It will be going out June the 16th. And there is a reason for that, but I don't want to say too much about it yet. But that is going to be a very, very interesting episode. I can tell you where I filmed it, because I've been to Dublin, Ireland, capital city of the Republic of Ireland. Beautiful place, like a sort of... It's as if a Victorian city got fused with the modern world. It's still got this kind of Victorian seediness about it, this Victorian sort of downtrodden vibe, but there's also like modern tram trains running right through the city down practically every street. There are traffic lights which sound like one of those cheap imitation Dalek monsters that Doctor Who tried to push in like the 60s when they were trying to like find a new Dalek. It's a fascinating place, and well worth visiting as well. Oh, I thoroughly recommend, like, especially if you're interested in history. There is so much history in Dublin. Tell you, one incident that happened while I was filming involved the Molly Malone statue. Unfortunately, I didn't get this on camera because it involved another person, but I was like just looking up and down the street just to see like if it was quiet, if it was okay to start filming. And then as I'm looking, this old Italian woman basically hurries down the street with like her family, her daughter and granddaughter, I think it was, and she runs, literally sprints up to the statue and jumps onto the little plinth and goes poof right onto Molly Malone's boobs, like Force 10 Gale clamps hands right down. Astonishing. It was an amusing sight, shall we say. But people do that. I saw like somebody else come along and just go boom. Well, not with the same force, but they basically clamped both of their hands on Molly Malone's boobs. And this is a thing that people do. They're like, because the statue has like, you know, massive knockers, they come along and they basically just place their hands on Molly Malone's boobs. And it's thought to be a sign of luck. Here's the interesting thing though, you can tell that people are doing this just by looking at it. If there's no one around, you can tell that they're doing this. Because, like, the boobs, this video is probably going to get demonetized because I've said the word boobs far too many times. But you can tell that people are doing this because the boobs are a different colour to the rest of the statue. Most of the statue is like dark bronze, sort of blackened bronze. But the boobs are basically bright gold. I'm like, this is actually a thing people do with statues. It's like, there's a statue of Winston Churchill in the House of Commons, and MPs rub his little foot for luck as they're going into the House, and that's, as far as I'm aware, like, you can tell that it's being rubbed. And you can see this in, like, people rub statues for luck. It's very strange, and I don't know why it happens. Where does this come from? Why place your luck, place your faith in a statue? I don't really know. Maybe I'll get back to you on that one. It's worth thinking about. The other thing I noticed in Dublin, like going around all the museums and things, I went around the Dublin Castle, where they've like got the state apartments and like the hall where they inaugurate the president, and it's all the political stuff in there. It's like kind of like a tour of the White House, or I don't know, where similar you can't tour Downing Street, can you? It's kind of like that, except I don't think the president of Ireland lives there. It's just like a state building. It's fascinating anyway. I went round there. I went round the Museum of Literature, did a tour of Trinity College. I visited the General Post Office as well. And this rambling point leads me to what I want to talk about, which is the Easter Rising, 1916. Going around Dublin, you can't escape, like, notices, memorials, plaques, information about the 1916 Rising. It is memorialized, and understandably so, because this is like a momentous nation-defining, nation-founding moment for the Republic of Ireland, and it's a very important turning point in history, in British history, in Irish history. And I really got interested in this subject. I really got interested in learning about this. There's a lot I realised that I've never read about before, never heard about before. Going to the post office, you can still see the scar marks on the building, the bits where, it got hit by bullets, because that was like the centre of the action. That was where the Rising was based. That was the centre point. I went round St Stephen's Green as well, where there was there was a lot going on down there. There was stuff involving a Countess Markovitz. There was one story I read about one of the park keepers. He insisted on a ceasefire every day during the Rising, just so he could go into the park and feed the ducks, that is a beautiful little nugget of history. It's one of these really human, really fascinating nuggets of trivia. It's one of those things which adds like an extra dimension to history. It adds the human side to history. It makes it more than just dates or events or names. It rounds things off. It adds more complexity. I have to say, I've been reading a few books about the Easter Rising since I've been in Dublin. This one I got out of the university library. This is Pat Coogan, 1916, The Easter Rising. Very readable. it goes into like details of what was going on before as well, like the events leading up to the Rising, why it happened, and why it happened when it did. Another one I read, which I don't have here, was one I bought in Dublin, which was Irish History in 250 Episodes. Can't remember off the top of my head who wrote it, but very interesting little book, divided into like 3 or 4 page snippets. That was very informative. Not a overly detailed view of the Rising, but enough, basically enough to give me like an overview, a detailed overview. And the other one, this was, it might have been the day I went round Trinity, actually. I went into a bookshop afterwards, just down the road from the post office, actually. And this is, it was going cheap. Trinity in War and Revolution 1912 to 1923 by Thomas Irish. This obviously goes into a bit more detail about like events leading up to and after, and it's only focused on Trinity College, but this allows for more in-depth analysis. And I've already read pretty much most of the stuff about the Rising itself in here. There's like a whole chapter about how the college was affected, what was happening at the college. They, as soon as they heard that there was something going on, the porters and the stewards chained the front gates up, and then they basically locked the doors, symbolically cutting Trinity off from the rest of Dublin. And then the day after, basically martial law got declared. This was 27th of April 1916, day after the Rising started, Easter Monday. The British government declared martial law in Dublin, and the soldiers came in and they occupied effectively Trinity College and used this as their central base. It's one of those things that, again, like the duck thing, it adds complexity to the story. This isn't just a simple matter of a bunch of Irish nationalists coming along and saying, we want to kick the British out. This is a complex, defining moment in Irish history, in British history as well, which affects the whole of the city. It affects everyone. And it's one of those things that I think you can maybe spend half a lifetime studying in order to understand it. And I realise I've only really just scratched the surface on this, but I really do want to find out more. I really do. And yeah, eventually I will go back to Dublin and I will film an episode on the Easter Rising. The problem with doing something like that, though, especially like on location in Dublin, in Ireland, you're gonna piss someone off, aren't you? You're gonna annoy somebody, because do I need to go into this? Because you've still got those like divisions in Ireland between those who want it to be part of Britain, part of the United Kingdom, and those who want a united island, a single united independent island. Controversial, I think, is the word you would use to describe that. So what else have I been up to? Oh boy. How many days have I got left of this PhD now before I submit? 25. 25 days before I basically submit my thesis. We are almost there. Almost done. It's been a 4.5-year journey. I started at the same time as I started doing these properly. Started doing like proper, regular Past Force episodes. I think I started maybe... was it? I want to say September, but no, it wasn't September, was it? It was just before, I think. Might have been just before, because I filmed the first one. I remember. It's, I think it's called these days The Past Force Guide to the Kings and Queens of England. It's now on the old channel. I filmed that, and then a couple of days later there was an incident involving my landlady, and it ended up being a whole thing, and that's like the only Past Force I ever filmed in that house because of it. And then of course COVID came along like 6 months later, and we spent a long time with very unprofessional looking setups. Yeah, I started my PhD like the same time as that, like 4.5 years ago now. It's been a long road. That was another reason why I was in Dublin, actually. I was investigating postdoc opportunities. Would I like to do my postdoc at Trinity? I think, yeah, there are worse places to do a postdoc, and it would be, well, one of the ideas I've got basically involves comparing the situation with Irish film to Welsh film, and to do that at like a nice university like Trinity, yeah, I'd go for it if like I had the opportunity. But it's not the end of the world if I don't get a postdoc at Trinity. If I end up at like, say, the University of Norwich, doing something completely different, then so be it. But Trinity would be like a good base for what I want to do, or one of the ideas I've got anyway. But yep, 25 days left. Most of the major writing and the corrections are done now. I spent most of today sorting the bibliography out, just making sure I've got like all my references in there. Yes, I know there's like apps and things you can use to basically put in your citations and references and whatnot, but I prefer to do it the old-fashioned way. That way you actually get to see basically if your citations and your bibliography is basically up to scratch. I mean, I know you should do it as you go along as well, but this is me we're talking about. This is me. I'm a write as I go, throw the references in, sort them out at the end. Part of me is like sad that it's almost over, but there's relief as well. I think there's a kind of, oh thank God feeling. But the future scares me. The future, well, where am I going? What am I doing? Am I really going off to Trinity to do this thing comparing Irish and Welsh film? I'd like to do it. I really would, but will I even get a postdoc? Will I don't know, end up working for some random film company? The future is unwritten. The only thing that is written is the past. And even then, time can be, and will be, and often is, rewritten. It's strange. You know, you spend so much of your life living with the past, living in the past, that it can sometimes seem like a better place, like a place that is better than the modern world sometimes. But we've got to remember as well that we can't live in the past all the time. The past is the past. It's gone. It's not coming back. We've got to live in the present. We've got to live for today. We've got to make the most of the modern world. We can't hold on to everything. We can't hold on to the past. We've got to let it go. And that's ironic for me, because I think when I did my masters, I'd taken a bit of a break between undergrad and masters, and I said to myself, you know what, I did my undergrad at I said to myself, you know, I did my undergrad at Bangor. I want to go back. I enjoyed it. It's my home. I miss it. And it wasn't the same, was it? Oh, I knew it never was going to be. I was like determined to do different things. I was determined to like have a different experience this time around. It's one of the reasons I started doing archery, why I got involved with like different societies, why I resisted doing student radio again until like 1 month before COVID hit, and then it all got shut down and only came back for, well, it wasn't even a week in the end before it got shut down again, and now it's gone forever. It wasn't the same. And do I regret coming back? No, but I've been to like a load of different universities now, way more universities than I even saw before my undergrad. I've been down to Aberystwyth, to Warwick, which is ironically in Coventry. I've been to UCL, been to Trinity, Dublin, Trinity College Dublin, not Trinity College Cambridge. I've seen all these different universities, and I think, would I have had a better experience there? Would it have been better? Would it have been different? But regretting those things, regretting not going off to Liverpool or maybe Edinburgh, Bristol. You know, there's no point regretting it. I made my choice. It led me here. It led me down a bewildering rabbit hole. And in this wonderland of Welsh film, can't say I've enjoyed every minute. There were some films that were totally racist, totally sexist, misogynistic, completely horrible to watch. That's just Holiday on the Buses, which needs to fecking burn in hell. Why on earth are ITV still showing these films? Why do they still have the television series it's based on the ITV player? Leave it in the fecking 70s. But I wouldn't have missed it for the world. And who knows, if I'd have gone somewhere else, maybe I wouldn't have restarted this Past Force thing. Maybe I wouldn't have done all this, gone to Dublin, filmed that special episode, started really learning about the Easter Rising. I'm doing it again, aren't I? I'm going into a what if. History is not a what if, though. History is a why. History is it's who did what to who, it's why who did what to who, it's how who did what to who. It's a complex mash of reasons and motives and arguments and counter-arguments about what happened and why. And yeah, there's room for what ifs, but mostly, no. Mostly we put the what ifs to the side. The what ifs are almost pseudo-history. And that reminds me of another episode I need to film. I've been meaning to do an episode on proper pseudo-history, on what pseudo-history is, what it isn't, for 2 or 3 years now. I just haven't got around to it. But I will. I'll get to it eventually. What time we got? That's plenty, I think. 28 minutes. 29 minutes even. Thank you very much for listening to this ramble about history, about Dublin, about elderly Italian women clamping their hands onto Molly Malone's boobs. He said it again. He said the word boobs. Oh no, he said it again. He said it again. Boobs, 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 boobs. I'm going mad. Goodbye.